At a regular meeting of the Board of Trustees of the Village of Fredonia, duly called and held on the 9th day of September 2019 at 6:30 in the Trustees' Room, second floor, Village Hall, Fredonia, New York, and public notice of the time and place of this meeting has been given to the news media and conspicuously posted in one or more designated public locations in accordance with Section 104 of the Open Meetings Law. You ready? Okay. This being the time and place for the public hearing of Local Law Number 4-2019, Village of Fredonia, a local law to amend the Village Code to remove all references to Village Administrator. Proof of publication shown. I call the hearing to order. I will ask everybody who talks to speak for about 3 minutes. We have a lot of people here, and we need to go through everyone. Mr. Drayo.
Sam Drayo, village resident. I want to speak on local law number 4, but I want to make a preliminary statement regarding the position of village administrator. This was enacted in 1977, because there were many details and complexity in village government, and they wanted someone to keep the village informed, and so they established the position of village administrator. And I'll read just the first 3 sentences of the enabling resolution, setting forth the purpose of the village administrator. In order to provide the most economical and efficient and overall direction, coordination, and control of the day-to-day activities and operations of the Village of Fredonia, to minimize the administrative details now handled by the Board of Trustees, and provide centralized direction and control of village employees, and to formalize the staff and advisory functions necessary to the foregoing, the office of village administrator is hereby established for the village. That purpose is even more important today than it was 50 years ago. The village, for many reasons, needs a qualified village administrator with a solid financial background to assist the mayor and the village board, provide centralized direction of village operations. The village has an A1 bond rating, and having a qualified village administrator played no small part in that, and we need to maintain that. Getting to the specifics of local law number 4, there's a section in there, I think it's section 1 of section 2, that would delete any reference to the village administrator and to consolidating the positions of clerk treasurer. If you read section 1 of chapter 2, it's optional. It doesn't say you have to consolidate the 2 positions. And it doesn't state you have to have a village administrator. It says you may have an administrator, and you may consolidate those 2 positions. So why delete that? Why not keep that option open for the board? The board itself may decide a few months from now that it wants a village administrator. So why delete that section from our charter? Keep those options open, not only for yourself, but for future village boards. I am asking that the local law be tabled and not enacted tonight, and be given further consideration. I think it's a backward step for our village, and a serious one. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Ruth Boning, 86 Newton Street, Fredonia. I've lived here since I was 13, and my relatives all lived here. I grew up half in Dunkirk and half in Fredonia. I am greatly disturbed that you would take out the village administrator. Now, I have 2 degrees in music education, and if I were a person on the board, if I had, decided to run and been elected, I would not have felt myself capable of doing a lot that did not have people or an administrator, a village administrator. I saw that in '67 when things changed. The mayors that I had experienced up here had been very, very capable. The board had been very capable, but there are just an awful lot of things that people don't know unless that's their business. And I do not think it's a waste of money. I think that we would be wasting money if we did away with a position, even temporarily.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Dale Ricker, village resident. I have a question for Mr. Sedota. Were you not the village administrator, the village clerk, and the village?
I'm sorry, this is not a question and answer. This is just a statement. This is a public hearing, not a public discussion.
So we can't ask questions?
No, you can ask questions. He's going to answer when the public hearing is closed, not a discussion.
So I can't ask him a question?
You can ask a question, but he is going to answer at the end of all the public hearing. This is not going to be a discussion.
So you don't want to hear my question? Thank you.
I didn't say that, but you're very welcome.
Roger Pecos, 16 Woodcrest Drive. Our longtime village attorney, Mr. Dreo, has one opinion on this. And quite frankly, I've read through the charter myself, and I don't necessarily disagree with his opinion. You and Mr. Gard have a separate opinion, and sometimes it can be confusing reading legal documents. So I'm wondering, after talking to a number of people, if you wouldn't be better off getting an outside opinion on this, either from the comptroller's office or somebody that could digest all the information, the charter, the state laws, and actually give us an opinion on if everything that we've had for 50 years is actually okay. It just seems when we've had some, I'm not one to keep something just because that's the way we've done it forever, but it seems that it has worked okay for 6 previous mayors and countless boards and countless department heads, and I'm just worried we're throwing out the baby with the bathwater here. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else? Mr.
What would be the cost of a village?
Can you say your name, please?
Oh, Doug Stock, 15 Woodward Drive. I've been a resident of the village since 1968. And I'd like to know what the cost would be to hire the village administrator. And I'm sure that at this present time, we could use policemen, firemen, and public service department people. Which one would be better to use?
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, so I close this public hearing and we go to the next one. This being the time and place for the public hearing on local law number 3, 2019, Village of Fredonia, a local law to amend chapter 179 of the Fredonia Village Code entitled Housing Standards, Proof of Publication Shown. I call the hearing to order. Anybody? Nobody. Okay. We close the public hearing and we go to a resolution to the workshop. All right. So introduction to local law number 4. Allow me to answer some of the questions. First of all, the position of the administrator has been dissolved. The problem is not the position. The problem is the way that local law got into the charter. The local law needs to be approved by the people of the village of Fredonia. Mr. Dreo made the whole argument that no, the Board of Trustees have always the right to do so. So why did you pass a local law in 2016?
I think I answered that in the newspaper.
So today we're not discussing the administrator. Today we're discussing the way the administrator got in and if it stays in for that reason. That's my answer to that. The cost is going to be probably about $100,000. That's how much it was before. What other questions are there? Oh, for the controller's office. I thought about it, and they stopped. It was a discussion, and at the end of the day, and I may still do it, but at the end of the day, this is not the only thing that's going to come up. I already spoke with with NICOM. Mr. Essek was on the other line. I know what they're going to say, but this is the problem. We have other problems here. The previous administrator deprived the village, cost the village $300,000 in revenue. That's going to come up. We have a contract, 2014, for $230,000 for a wastewater treatment plant that we paid and never did anything about it. That's going to come up. We have a workplace violence case. That's going to come up. So all of these things come to public for months and months. If you are an investor with $100,000, you will not come here. So the only reason that I'm keeping back that, and as I said, I didn't promise anybody that I would not call the Office of the Controller. But the only reason is because I'm trying to save the village of all this investigation. That's my reason. Anyways, so what else was that? And by the way, did you know that the charter up to 2016 did not have the word administrator in there? 2016, that's 3 years ago. We had an administrator for 50 years. The word administrator appeared in the charter in December of 2016. Did you know that?
I was not aware of that.
I can promise you, you can come down, I have the oldest I can find charter, that's from 1932, and I have quite a few in between then and now. Mr. Dreo passed a local law, in 2016, December, right before he retired. And he put that little thing, the thing that you read, the thing that everybody reads in here, in 2016. That's the truth. So, I open the discussion.
May I read my letter?
No, we're going to read that at the actual, at your report. You want to read it at your report? I think it's the best time to read it. Yes. All right. So we're going to the local law number 3, 2019. Board of Trustees.
I think the local law amendment is fine.
Okay, good. Great, actually. And then we go to the EMS revenue recovery increase. We talked about it at the last meeting. And finally, we're doing it this time around. You okay with that?
Fine with that.
All right. And then we have the municipal solution proposal for general financial services. And that, Jim, that's for the bond, right? Yes.
It's almost completed, and
I just want to say that the A1 rating that we have now, and we had it for years, actually, it's actually this year with the help of Mr. Sedota and Municipal Solutions. And this board, because they approved that, we saved close to $300,000 in interest because we moved away from what we were doing before and doing something new now. So A1 is always good. $300,000 is even better. And then we have the villages. You have anything? Okay. And then we have the villages emergency water line WIA grant application resolution. I want to explain that when we had the problem with the colored water in a few neighborhoods in the village, we got a loan. We could not find the grant, so we got a loan. The loan was for $1.3 million. We ended up spending close to 1.7. Is that correct, right? Yes, close to 1.7. And that loan matured actually in 1 year. We were able to get an extension for another 6 months. What we want to do now is we want to apply for a specific grant, and that grant is going to cover up to 60% of that loan instead of paying it back ourselves. Maybe the state can help us a little bit. So this resolution is to allow Municipal Solutions to apply in the name of the village for that money.
Jim, I have a question. Above that and beyond the original amount, did we bond that, or did they increase some of the 0% loan at one point?
well, right now, it's in what they call a short-term bond anticipation note. And that'll expire, and I believe, in about 3 months. And then EFC can agree to give us long-term financing. But there would be an interest charge on that. This application is to cover up to 60% of what we've already spent in a grant. So the 40% remaining, if we were eligible for it and received it, then the 40% remaining would go into a long-term bond issue, which they would cover. We wouldn't have to go through a formal bond issue.
And I mean, it's an opportunity, maybe we're going to get some money to help us pay. And then we have the Porter Avenue wall emergency repair. We talked about that a few meetings ago. Now we have the actual proposal. It's a short-term solution. We need to find a long-term solution in the next 2 years. That's the condition that the Department of, the DEC, Department of Conservation, put upon us. So we need to find a long-term solution in the next 2 years. 2021, is that right, Jim? Is it 2021?
Pardon?
The 2021,
Yeah.
that we need to find a permanent solution. All right, so that's that. Anybody? Okay, and let's go to all business. At the last meeting, I had asked 2 representatives from Wendell to come and explain to the board the renovations of the fire hall, the reason being that this amount keeps going up. And I wanted the board to be aware of that and to actually make a decision as to where you want to go.
Did they find anybody? They were having trouble finding people to bid, and she said they were gonna put it out again. Did they have anybody bid after the meeting 2 weeks ago?
Well, they did not put it up to bid.
Oh, they didn't do it again, okay.
We have to pass a resolution to do that. So they did not, but they did reach out to some of the contractors. And
Weren't they gonna have them
They
bid
didn't
against
give
each
us-
other or something, sort of like they were gonna pick contractors and have them bid again, you know?
well, I have a problem also with Wendell putting charges on top of each other. And that was probably the main reason that I asked them to come and talk. Never mind the fact that, of course, the initial proposal, the initial estimate was $364,000, and the bid was $480,000, and that without any charges on top of that. So, what do you want to do? Mr. Essick?
I need to review that a little bit more, but in the meantime, the building needs to be secured, and I had spoke to Chief Walker last week about it, and we need to also address that probably during this discussion here. Because if we can't get it worked on this construction season, which it's probably looking like it might not be,
I can't imagine that way.
I can't imagine it either, that back hose tower walls they had Tyvek on it, but over the last year, the Tyvek has ripped off and so forth. So one way or another, it will need to be secured for the winter season, but I need to look over more of this information here with this window. I need to review it a little bit more.
Mr. Briggs?
The only thing I would like to see is who Wendell and where they advertise for these contractors. I've been approached by a couple of local contractors that said they never received or saw any information in order to bid on this process. So I'd like to ask Wendell where they're advertising and how. It's just one question I
You
have
want
for
to
them.
try to get in touch with them?
That'd be fine.
All right. What do you think?
This project's taken an awfully long time, even for Wendell to get to this point, and that they went to the time over a year to get to the point where they were going to put it out to bid, and then, of course, the time limit to have it done before the winter. Apparently, the contractors felt that it wasn't feasible. So now they're suggesting something else, and they claim they went through 17 contacted 17 contractors, and like you said, they mentioned that the cost keeps going up. They gave us an estimate where they anticipated to be now well over $500,000, and that isn't a sure thing at this point. And they also wanted the village to hire a clerk of works hired by the village. So at this point, I think that, I don't believe that I would be willing to sign a waiver for them to do work. I think that it would make sense to do the minimal amount of sealing again for the winter time. And, if we have to look into this bidding at appropriate time for this next year, or I might even suggest that at this point, that we're looking at a municipal public safety building, that we now allocate the money that we have already set aside and put it in a reserve fund for the new facility. And just wrap this one up and put it available at some point it become available for economic development in our downtown, which would be, it's a nice prime spot. But if we're going to establish a new facility, let's not put way more money into this facility than which anything close to what we originally considered. This costs are getting really out of hand on this. So I think that would be my suggestion.
Okay, and the waivers, what they're asking for the waiver is so they don't have to go out to bid again. That's the
Right,
waiver.
and they want to, but they want to have the waiver so that they have their two, or a couple of people, they claim bid against each other, but
Right.
the cost is already going higher than the original
Oh,
cost.
way higher.
Way higher.
Yes, way higher.
And then we're paying them to do more work when they couldn't complete the work initially that we wanted them to complete. They had a hard time getting it done.
I mean, this is a big
So-
problem. We have this problem for 3 years now. And we go to 3 different engineering companies. It's very costly, and we have to decide what to do about it.
What were Wendell and, I thought there was just one other one that we went to? There was 3 total, you're saying?
Oh, you're right, with 2.
We just had 2, but
Yes,
still,
yes.
at this point,
Still is a lot of money.
Absolutely.
I mean,
At this point, you-
it's,
like,
yes,
Nothing
it's
to show for it.
nothing to show, and do we
nothing to
consider
show. The
another?
building is
Worse now than it
Worse
was
now
when we
than
started the
before.
process.
So do we consider a different
Not a
engineer?
question, just a suggestion. Ask Wendell if they put it out on the Dodge report, which is online and everything else. That's where all the contracts look for work.
They did that. They did that, I think. I can find
I would
out.
hope so.
They did, yeah. Dr.
They told us
Barris,
where they put it on. When she was here, they gave the name of the place where they put the bids, but I don't remember what it was.
what's right? Dr. Barris,
I think we need to approve the waiver. The cost of labor throughout the United States has gone up according to newspaper articles I'm reading. So it's very difficult to find labor.
Well, that's true too. Okay, so what is the general consensus? What you want to do?
I'm not ready to make a decision. I need to review it a little bit more before I'm able to make a decision.
All right, so I will ask you to think about it, and at the next meeting, we need to make a decision to go forward or stop or whatever else you wanted to do. All right, number 2 is North Chautauqua County Water District engineer. If you remember, they sent us, the North County Water District sent to this board some proposals for some interconnects and some valves between them and us. I suggested at the time to have an engineer from our part to look at these plans. Tony Gazzino gave me a couple of names. I called and I gave you some information. I can't, say the name obviously, but they charge $160 per hour, I think. So, and this person thinks that it's probably going to need 10 to 12 hours. I
That
sent you an
information-
email.
That was previous, I think, at the previous meeting.
Yes, but I just need to know what you want me to do. You want me to call and say it's okay, we're going to pay for that? You want to wait? I mean, what do you want me to do?
I would like to move forward on having an independent engineer other than the engineer from the North County Water District give us some
I certainly agree
information
with
as
that.
to the effects of that.
Are
either
you
good or
okay
bad.
with, are you okay with this idea? Are you okay with the money? Can we pay?
Are they gonna give us a contract for that proposal?
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm
Let's
gonna
take a
have
look at
something.
it.
Could I have them, well, you could ask that. I mean, as you know, I was not in favor of spending any money on this because the North County Water Districts claimed that they would take care of all costs. But if it's in the interest of protecting the village, as you stated, and Tony stated that I would be probably in favor of having them, send us a contract with their fees and total costs, not just some of the costs, which seem to be
Well,
happening a lot.
it's an hourly cost, and he thinks it's going to be about 10 to 12 hours. So we already know how much
Okay.
the money is. So
I'm
if,
okay with that then.
okay. So can you pass a resolution the next time?
Yes.
If the
I give them a
if the
call,
contract
yes,
comes,
I give them a call. All right. So, Anne-Marie, let's give him a call tomorrow to do that. And then, where's the police chief? We have here the police department generator. Just, yes, please.
Well, the
Just-
generator is in place, the transfer switch is here. They need to shut the police barn down for about 2 hours to do an install. So that has to happen on a Saturday morning is the best time for that. And they were willing to do it this past Saturday. I didn't think that was a good Saturday shutdown. So I'm very hopeful that this coming Saturday we'll have it in. If not this coming Saturday, the following Saturday. But I suspect this Saturday.
But everything is in place.
Everything is in place.
Excellent.
Thank
Hey,
you.
Brad, before you go,
Yeah.
we got a quote from Beck Electric, and it says for quantity 120 kilowatt Generac Guardian Series generator, Generac automatic transfer switch, and Generac cold weather kit, and that was for $5,800. Is this something new?
That's the work we just did.
Okay,
Look at that.
so are we getting a new generator as well?
That includes the things to the generator. They're doing the install and all the labor associated with the
Free.
install as a community service, free of charge.
So
Yeah,
we're
it was a
replacing the
great-
generator that was damaged with a 20 kilowatt generator, correct?
Yeah, and that's what came out, was a 20.
Okay,
So we're
okay,
putting back in a 20. It's amazing. It's 1/3 the size of the generator that came out.
okay.
It's amazing what the technology
Okay.
is.
I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. And then you go to new business. We have
I've got, excuse me, I have one other thing, a couple things under old
Oh,
business.
yes, of course, we have the National Grid.
A couple of weeks ago, during one of our meetings, I brought up that I would be contacting National Grid regarding the moving of the street light. I finally did get an email back from them. Apparently, they're looking for us to pay the small fee to have that moved, so they can go and process the work order to have that light moved. I was unaware that, I thought they would just move it and then bill us, but it has to be paid up front, and then they will move the light. So I sent everyone an email this afternoon with the fee structure in there, and then Jim kind of sent me back an email, said that we could possibly just pay it and move on with it.
I advise that you pay it.
Right, so we can do that.
One other thing I have under old business, a while back I discussed the replacement of the large hanging baskets in the park. Yuriko Farms forwarded me for some information that the treasurer from the revitalization of Dunkirk uses a company called Planters Unlimited, which is a commercial outfit that manufactures and distributes commercial grade baskets and flower bins and this sort. So I finally got a firm quote on what it would cost to replace the 26 baskets that we need to replace in the village. It looks like a total of $3,241.60. So I'd like to talk to the board about possibly finding funds to replace those. And if it's something we need to discuss, and we can put together a resolution for next time we meet.
I'm okay with spending the money. I'm wondering if there are any community groups that would be willing to help. I don't know, help with the cost, but I'm okay with it either way.
Well, let me ask you this, they wouldn't be in service or in place for this summer and that, so it would be next summer that they would be, so could we just include that in the budget process?
Well, again, they need to have the baskets delivered to Yuriko Farms.
Okay, there's a time, okay.
Yeah, so they can start getting the planting set.
Yeah, they can work on them over the winter.
Right now, it just looks like,
What kind of baskets are those?
I'm sorry?
What kind of baskets are those?
They're an iron basket. I can send you the actual information.
Yeah,
They're
do you have
20
pictures, maybe?
Yeah, I'll send you the link. It was hard for me to kind of send the whole link at the time. But they're the same, identical baskets as Dunkirk uses. It's a 22-inch English garden flat steel hanging basket with a cocoa liner and chain. They recommend that we get these fiberglass inserts that protect the cocoa liner so that it drains properly and the flowers don't dry out in the hot summer sun. So that's pretty much it. Yuriko's requests that we try to get these to them as soon as September. They look like they start doing their plantings so that we have everything in line for spring. So really the baskets need to be delivered to them prior to the spring so they can get the
You
plantings.
can see a picture of that.
Where would that funding come from, Jim? What line? What line would that, what area would that come from to pay for those? We have money in our budget for it.
He's asking which fund,
public-
where would it come out of?
What
Public
area?
Works?
I'm sorry, didn't hear me.
Public DPW, Public Works budget, or
Community
what?
development.
We have
Yeah,
a
what-
building and grounds
Building and
account
grounds?
that we can use.
Buildings and grounds.
There's a couple spots in the
There are.
budget where we could appropriate.
So it'd be all right to prepare that
Yeah.
resolution for next
Yeah,
meeting
if
so we
you
can get
want
these
to.
ordered for the spring?
Okay, that's what I needed to know. Yeah, I'm okay with it then.
Dr. Barrett?
I'm unenthusiastic about hanging baskets.
Well, I love them.
The majority
Myself, yes, to the village.
Right. And then we have the, for new, are you all done?
All set, thank you.
Yes. And then under new business, we have a Davis Elmer Fire Protection Inspection Quote. I'm trying to find that.
Would this price? Look at our procurement policy, $5,600 for a contract, is that requiring bids?
Requires telephone solicitations.
Okay.
quotes by phone.
Okay. So we should probably get more quotes by phone then before we decide on the services of this company?
You don't need 3 quotes, you just need a quote under the procurement policy. A quote. That's
Oh,
it.
a quote, okay.
Yeah. So if we have a quote, we're good.
Well, it's nice if you get more than one though, because then you're encouraging a little competition. It makes you an assurance that the price you're gonna pay is at least reasonable.
So as long as we don't say what the quote was right now, we can.
Yeah, right, yeah. Yeah, don't broadcast it right now.
Okay. I would prefer to get a couple more quotes just because. I realize it's not required, but if, that would be my thought, and whatever the rest of the board would prefer.
Maybe at least one more. Who else does this? Are there other people who do this? Are there other companies that do this?
Fire companies, yes, there's other companies out there that, I would assume that would perform these. I can't imagine there's only one in Western New York.
Okay, I mean, that's no problem with that. Let's move on. Public pursuit.
This portion of the meeting is for public comment. Any member of the public wishing to speak, once recognized, shall stand and state their name and address. Speakers will be allowed 3 minutes if speaking for themselves, or 5 minutes if speaking on behalf of a group. I will ask the speakers to refrain from remarks that are in poor taste, slanderous, or not germane to any action taken or contemplated by the board.
Yes.
Roger Pecos, 16 Woodcrest Drive. 2 comments regarding the fire hall. I agree with the board. I can't believe it's taken this long. During my tenure at the school, I saw a number of building projects, was involved with a couple of them. And one thing I learned was timing was everything. The current building project that they're doing, they were working on a year ago with the intention of bidding it out last fall, which they did. And everything came in under budget, which allowed them a lot of extra money for change orders and additional things. I can't believe these guys were bidding it out in the late spring or early summer, which is the middle of your construction season. So it's not really surprising that everything came in over budget, because any company thinking of taking it on is probably going to have to hire additional crews, additional management. I would recommend what Doug and Jim, what you said, try to button it up for the winter with Tyvek or whatever, and have them rebid it this fall for the next construction season. And I think you'll hopefully find that it'll come in under budget, or at least not way over budget. My second comment, I guess I'm mildly enthusiastic about the plant hangers. I'm a little bit over Dr. Barris, but the one thing I'll say through the years, many people have commented when they come into the village, either parents of college students or just visitors for Red, White, and Blues, Farm Festival, any of our activities, how nice the village looks with those planters. So I would recommend we spend $3,000, and because I think it really does make the village look a lot nicer. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Doug Stock, 15 Woodwood Drive, Fredonia, New York. Suggestion regarding the fire hall. Maybe it would be a smart idea to contract the Southern Tier Building Trades Association and let them know that you're having trouble getting contractors. They may be able to help you. They're the ones that do the work, so I'm sure they could give you some pointers. Maybe find a contractor that would be interested.
That's good. Thank you. Yes.
Hi, Joel Anders, 2416 Mezio Road, Forestville. The only reason I'm here is because you guys have hanging baskets. Or else I wouldn't even came to this meeting. So I just, you guys, everyone needed a little lightheartedness, right? And you guys deal a lot with numbers, man. You guys should all just be accountants. Are you all accountants? Ooh. I just want to talk about the food truck permit that's been in, that you guys have implemented. While I can see why a village would do that, for a couple reasons. One, if the people being here would lose maybe other businesses that are normally here, that revenue is not generated on a day when I'm here. What I want to talk more about is the way it's done and in what I believe to be discriminative. Currently, that permit has to be filled out by only someone that has a food truck on wheels. So if you have a food truck that's on the ground, you're okay. My employees get background checks, others don't. I don't know how that's legal and not discriminative. So I'm asking that you guys look into your policy and make it fair across the board. I'm all for paying a couple dollars to be here. I do understand that the food people generally food people and entertainment bring the people to the festival, so we're making more money. So I will give $50 a day even, I guess. But for my employees to have to be scrutinized, and a roofer comes into town and gets a building permit, does his? Got to think about that. Building permits, why are they different than food vendors? How about someone that works at the college? Every contractor that we just talked about tonight, we're going to bid them all out. How many background checks is the village doing on all those contracts? But yet we're doing it for my employees. It's discriminative. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cynthia Wickwire Lundquist. I'm the pastor of the Fredonia Presbyterian Church at 219 Central Avenue in Fredonia. And I wanted to announce that the Fredonia Presbyterian Church is planning to once again hold the Feeding Fredonia Challenge. As many of you may know, for over 5 years we have asked the village to support the Fredonia Food Pantry by participating in an annual community-wide food drive. Over 80 local businesses, the Fredonia Central School District, and SUNY Fredonia have supported the effort each year. The pantry has offered hundreds of bags of non-perishable food to Fredonia residents over the years, but we need the village's continued support so that this effort may go on. Tonight, I'm asking the village trustees to consider endorsing the Feeding Fredonia Challenge for October 2019, which this year will go for 2 weeks to offer more opportunities for contributions from the 7th of October until the 18th, so that our church can continue to offer this support for village residents.
Thank you very much. Everybody, just make a note. We can do the next meeting. That's right. Anybody else? Yes.
My name is Christina Rouse, and I live at 25 Maple Avenue, and I'm representing Chautauqua County Women's Action Group. Men, welcome. According to NASA, the vast majority of actively publishing climate scientists, 97% agree that humans are causing global warming and climate change. Most of the leading science organizations around the world have issued public statements expressing this, including international and U.S. science academies, the United Nations Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, and a whole host of reputable scientific bodies around the world. The Center for Biological Diversity states, although extinction is a natural phenomenon, it occurs at a natural background rate of about 1 to 5 species per year. Scientists estimate we're now losing species up to 100,000 times the background rate, with literally dozens going extinct every day. It could be a scary future indeed, with as many as 30 to 50% of all species possibly heading toward extinction by mid-century. The Union of Concerned Scientists warns that our new climate reality is fraught with stronger hurricanes, polar vortex shifts, recurrent high tide flooding, life-threatening heat waves, longer wildflower seasons, and more rain during heavy downpours. We have reached a tipping point on climate action. Scientists say we have roughly 1 decade left to avoid the most severe consequences of climate change. As humans, we have the ability to foresee the potential consequences of our actions and to change course. I see a lot of heads turning the opposite way. If our children and grandchildren are to inherit a habitable planet, we must take steps now to go to zero carbon dioxide emissions as soon as possible by eliminating the burning of fossil fuels. The Chautauqua Cattaraugus Women's Action Group asks that our elected officials take very seriously the threat imposed by climate change and act accordingly by making decisions with the consequences to our environment in mind. We implore you to make a commitment to zero emissions and to help mitigate the crisis at hand as much as you are able to do. For the sake of our constituents, our descendants, and all living beings on the planet, who would make this stuff up? Fredonia could lead by example. You may ask what we can do, little Fredonia. We could lead by example. So I implore you to consider the words that I've expressed tonight, and I thank you very much for your audience.
Thank you very much. All right, anybody else? Right, so we close the public portion. I got some reports. I made some notes earlier, but I will not use them. I'm glad you're here, Sam. Thank you for coming. However, with all due respect, sir, your comments, both here and on the paper, were inaccurate, incomplete, and widely misleading. I thought, as I was reading the comments, that I should come here and start discussing again all the points that you made. But I would be repeating myself, and there is no point. I still have my previous letter, my previous comment, that it was as a response to you coming here and accusing me that I'm not following the charter. And I have all the supporting documentation, from laws to minutes to discussion with the state. Everything is there for everyone to come and take a look. So I will not talk about that. I'll talk about something else. Reading your comments, what jumped on me was that you were making an argument against democracy. When you start talking about people who don't have the background, they work part-time, they're there and they don't know what to do. That may be true. First of all, the part-time, so everybody understands, there is nowhere in the charter or the village law or any law in the state of New York that says that the Board of Trustees and the mayor are part-time. When I started, please, this is not a public portion right now, okay? Please. No, that's not a question. That's my comment. So there is nowhere to be seen. And I will explain why. So if I'm a part-time mayor, what they told me in the beginning, it's a part-time job, don't worry about it. If I'm a part-time mayor, so I'm a mayor between 9 and 1. Who's going to be mayor from 1 to 9? Nobody? The village, these people, 10,000 people, if an emergency happens, nobody would be here to call the state. Nobody would be here. And by the way, no administrator can call the state. So this is not a part-time job. And this is not a full-time job. This is an all-time job. I spoke to people 1 o'clock in the morning. I visited the plant, the water plant, 3 o'clock in the morning. I called this Board of Trustees on a Sunday, and we talked and we met because there was an emergency. So whoever thinks that this job is a part-time job, is not a job. It's a service. And I'm very glad that I'm doing this service. I'm very appreciative that I'm doing this service. However, when you say all these things, and you say, you know what? Public officials come and go. That's correct. But that's democracy. Senators come and go. Governors come and go. Presidents come and go. Should we put some administrative head on top of everybody? No. That's the nature of democracy. That's the strength of democracy. That's the power of the people to be governed by those they elected and hold them accountable. We had an administrator for 12 years. Who held that person accountable? No one. No one. He did whatever he wanted. And you know that he did. If you didn't, read my message, read my comment. So you want to go back to that. To me, that was a scary thought, to actually say that, why have an election? Why have an election if the elected people are only here, the mayor calls a roll call, that's it, go home, and the Board of Trustees say, okay. You said you need the Board of Trustees to approve contracts, correct? Who's going to negotiate in the contracts? Who is the negotiator for the contracts? The administrator? Under what authority? There is an authority in the state of New York. There is a way of doing that. But this way is not the way it was done. That's my problem. My problem is that I came here and I found a government, a shadow government, and I couldn't do anything. I had complaints from people. I had colored water for 12 years before I came. So I went to the administrator. I said, well, do you know anything about this? The answer was, yeah, we told them it's safe. That's it. I don't agree with that. If the people of this village, and it doesn't matter if you're a Democrat or if you're a Republican, you live in a democracy. That's the nature of the country we live. We vote for our elected officials, we hold them accountable, we send them home if we don't like them, and put somebody else up. And that's fine. Now, I understand that, from previous emails, that you don't agree with that, obviously. That's why you didn't go that way. And you want to go back. What I have trouble understanding is that there are board members that they really want to do that again. Mr. Essek, for example, you were a trustee when the former administrator cost the village $300,000 in revenue. Did you know about it? Because if you did and you didn't say anything, you're just as culpable. If you didn't, you should have realized that this is a position that you cannot control. And there is something else. I found out that this discussion that I started because I believe, I know that this position was created against the law, has turned all around to all of a sudden be a power grab and overreach and abuse of power. Please tell me what power is, imaginary power actually, is out there for me to go harness and then abuse. I have no power. I come to this board to do absolutely everything. I cannot spend a single penny. I have not spent a single penny. I cannot make a single decision. I did not make a single decision. I do administrative duties, correct, for the last year. It takes about 30% of my time, no more than that. But I'm going to tell you what I do. I do my best diligence to go and find people who can help us, to go and find people who can give us money, to talk to those trustees who have the willingness to talk, to discuss, to find out how we can find solutions. And we brought money to this village. And we made this village known to the state. No one gave us money before. $7 million now, and a hospital, God willing. Okay? And a hospital. I could never have done that unless I had those trustees who had the open-mindedness to accept the money, to discuss the solutions, and to go there. And something more. I'm so thankful to our treasurer and to our clerk. You talked about continuity. The administrator doesn't bring continuity. There's only one person in the whole village government that brings continuity, the clerk. Nobody else. Because it feels so good for me to have people stopping by and saying, for the first time in years, we call the village hall and somebody answers. We call the village hall, we leave a message, and somebody calls us back. Contract companies. When the former administrator walked out, I called one of the contract companies, one of the engineering companies, because I knew that there were so many projects just in limbo. They even had a nickname for us, Fredonia time. I said, what's going on? Fredonia time. Everything goes very slowly. I assured them that's not the case anymore. So, one more thing that I'd like to say tonight. Again, to Mr. Esek and Mr. Britz. At the last meeting, you voted no. You voted no for the public hearing. You were very much willing to allow Mr. Dreo to give a 10-minute speech, but you did not want these people to come here today and talk. You voted against the public hearing. I saw the minutes, both of you. So Mr. Transparency himself voted against the public hearing. I trust democracy. You never trusted the people of this village, Mr. Dreo. I trust them. I trust the people of this village. I want the people of this village to make the decision. This decision tonight has nothing to do with anybody's thinking of the administrator being a good idea or a bad idea. This decision tonight is going to give back to the people who should have the power to create the position, that power. The people of the village of Fredonia, if the Board of Trustees want that to happen, they can go, they can create a committee. That committee still needs a local law. I'm sure you know that. They can create a committee to propose a new position for the administrator, and then they can go to public referendum. Public referendum out there. I trust the people. So, Republicans and Democrats, the same thing. They all have the right to be governed by those they have elected. That's my belief, that, Mr. Dreo. I know it's something else. Trustee Christina.
Yes, I have a statement to read. I think we've clarified it already, but just one more time, there seems to be some misunderstanding and confusion about the purpose of tonight's meeting. I had some phone calls from people who if I didn't get back to you tonight, it's because I just didn't have time. I promise I will call you back, but people are under the impression that we're voting to eliminate the position of village administrator. That position has already been dissolved. That's not what's before us tonight. The position has already been dissolved, and we are just cleaning up some language. This happened a year ago, and I've remained quiet about this until now, but Mr. Dreo's commentary in the paper compelled me to write a response, and I'm going to read that to you now. Having lived in the village my entire life, I really believe in the importance of tradition and legacy. I believe in respecting those who served and came before you. Continuing good, solid practices from one generation to the next creates a foundation, a framework, and a sense of security. Removing or altering a long-standing tradition or position should take serious contemplation, thought, and planning. I've not spoken much publicly regarding the choice made a year ago to eliminate the village administrator position, nor the retirement of the longtime village attorney, because I respected the positions and those who held them. I truly believe that these individuals were working for the improvement of their hometown. when I was appointed and then elected to fill my current seat on the village board, I was surprised to find out that it really wasn't the trustees or the mayor who ran the village. It was the village administrator and the village attorney. In newspaper articles and public statements, former village attorney Mr. Drale explains many things that the village charter states. But what the charter states and what was actually practiced over time by village government were two very different things. Over the years, many governing powers were in fact transferred from the elected positions of mayor and trustees to the unelected positions of village administrator. The village administrator position is created in 1967 and then abolished and recreated in 1977, gained increasing power and authority. Ultimately, the position of village administrator came to hold more power and sway over the running of the village than many people were aware. This unelected position held more power over the running of the village government than any of the people duly elected by the residents of the community. Mr. Dreo has also stated in his commentary that a village administrator was necessary because elected officials are part-time, frequently changing, and have little to no working knowledge of village government or its procedures. Yet it was these very people who made the initial decision to create the position of village administrator. On the one hand, Mr. Dreo dismisses trustees as uninformed and inexperienced, and on the other hand, he entrusts them to hire the person for what he states is a very important position. The latest commentary by Mr. Dreo in The Observer was titled, "Post is Vital to Village," and in his article, Dreo states that the post is vital to the village and necessary for the government to work effectively and allows officials more time to concentrate on major issues. One must ask, why then did the village government function so poorly for many years? It has to be apparent to anyone who has lived in this village for any extended period of time that this village was allowed to deteriorate. There are many factors outside the control of local municipalities that affect them, but leadership and how to deal with the issues of governing are the essential components of a healthy community. This village was not healthy. The welfare of the community, as well as that of the village employees, were neglected for decades. Our village had crumbling infrastructure, brown water in several neighborhoods, a police station that is a structural abomination and not worthy of our fine police force, a DPW facility that needs serious upgrades, a fire hall that was and still is falling apart, a reservoir and water treatment plant that are in serious need of upgrading and work and have been for a long time. If having an administrator is so important and necessary and key and vital to the running of the village, then how did the village deteriorate so when we had one? In the closing of his commentary, Mr. Dreo further stated that Fredonia needs a full-time qualified village administrator in order to operate a full-service village. If the village needs a full-time administrator, let the voting public decide in a referendum. The current village board and the mayor have operated a full-service village without an administrator for well over a year. We have a highly qualified treasurer and a village clerk who are working efficiently. These two individuals, along with the other village hall employees, have been able to reorganize and streamline services, duties, and tasks. The physical space in the offices has also been organized and improved for efficiency and modernization. At this point, Dreo's discussion is moot. The position of administrator has already been eliminated. Continually revisiting previous actions taken by the current board and mayor is wasteful and takes precious time and energy away from the efforts to govern. Ultimately, it prevents this board from moving our village forward. The action before the board tonight is simply to remove the word administrator from the charter, from the code, where it never actually appeared in the first place. According to the charter, as Mr. Dreo stated in his commentary, if this or any village board so desires to create an administrative position, they should start from the ground up, clearly defining with more specific and substantial language the duties and limitations of the position, and then hold a public referendum. A better investment of resources may be, and this is for discussion, to create the position of a full-time mayor, one who is elected and accountable to the public and whose actions and policies are subject to much more transparency than those of the village administrator have been. Thank you.
Trustee Essen. Oh, I'm sorry, Trustee Linden. Sorry.
Yeah, I've prepared two short, brief statements. One concerning the local law number 3. It's, from time to time, there's a need to review and update the village codes, such as here with the housing standards. This directly helps to address current needs in safety and responsible rental property ownership, management, and occupancy, and bettering the ability for the Code Enforcement Department to hold the responsible parties accountable for their actions or lack of action. This, in turn, has a positive effect on quality of life and helps to maintain or improve property values in this community. And then my next statement concerning local law number 4. This governing body has found more efficient village operation since the hiring of a separate treasurer and clerk, and the mayor handling much of the day-to-day administration. When it is identified that a correction to the village code needs to be made, it is responsible to make that change. The past changes that put the village administrator as listed with New York State as head of or village run by such administrator was not done through a required referendum, but by resolution. And today's resolution will correct that by removing all references in the village code and returning the village charter to its original form. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Russ.
On a positive note here tonight, I'd like to commend the festivals, Fredonia, and the committee for the Red, White, and Blues Festival. They did a tremendous job. It brought a ton of people into our village, which increased revenues for the businesses. It was a super event. We met people from Grand Island, south end of the county from North Harmony and Lakewood. It's a big event. It's a super event. I appreciate it. I enjoyed it both days. We had a really good time. Today, I just a small part of today is the first day of National Assisted Living Week, and the WCA home had a open house and art exhibit that I went to and enjoyed. They did a really nice job. So people should be aware of our different businesses and the different services that we provide around our community that are really good. So the WCA home had a very, very nice event today, and I was glad to attend it. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Briggs.
Just a couple of quick things. I want to congratulate the Fredonia Chamber of Commerce for having a successful evening in the park just recently. I had the opportunity to take the trolley out, so again, and I have another $3 for you this time. Unfortunately, I didn't work it too hard. $3. I tried to work it.
You let people ride for free.
The other thing I'd like to say is I'd like to congratulate again, emphasizing again with Doug, that the Red, White, and Blues Festival was very successful this year. I think we had a phenomenal turnout, and it seems to be growing more and more every year, so hats off to that committee. They did a great job. A lot of positive things I heard out on the street, and like to see more of these festivals to bring more business into the area. There was a little gathering in the Water Street after we had closed Water Street that evening. Some of the committees were there with a bunch of residents, and we actually created a new festival that I won't let the cat out of the bag, but it might be something this spring. So let's look forward to that. That's all I have this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Barris.
Yes. At 5 a.m. on Saturday, after I read Mr. Dreo's letter, I sent a letter to the Observer, and they did not publish it, unfortunately. It was concerned with the hearing which we had tonight, a local law to amend the village code to remove all references to village administrator. Sam Dreo Jr. argues that the post is vital to the village. Fredonia needs to keep an administrator. And this appeared in the Observer on Saturday morning, September 7th, 2019. Fredonia had an administrator from 1977 until 2018. This title embraced the clerk and treasurer titles in addition. In 2018, the village trustees appointed a separate clerk and a separate treasurer. I support this proposed local law for two major reasons. One, page 27 of the current Local Government Management Guide of the New York State Comptroller's Division of Local Government and School Accountability Queries quotes, "Is the bank reconciliation performed by a person whose job duties do not include maintaining either the cash receipts or disbursement journals or receiving or dispersing cash," end quotes. This separation of accounts receivable and accounts payable is a crucial aspect of maintaining institutional fiscal credibility. In my former work as deputy clerk of the town of Pomfret, I and the clerk were responsible for accounts receivable, while a part-time accountant was responsible for accounts payable. This accountant served that cross-checking function for several towns, thus providing him with full-time employment. Reason number two, Dreo writes, quotes, "The village needs a full-time, qualified, and knowledgeable administrator to assist the mayor and village board in coordinating and advising them of all the various functions, projects, and services provided by the village and courses of action to take so that good decisions can be made for our village," end quotes. In practice, however, the administrators of Fredonia secretively insulated the successive mayors and trustees from information about the village's capital and financial assets, functions, projects, and services. In an hour-long meeting with the village's independent auditors in the mayor's office on August 21st, 2019, I had an opportunity to express my concerns regarding this secretiveness, which removed the mayors and trustees from decision-making. Rather, the mayors and trustees did the bidding of the career administrators. See the current article entitled, quotes, "Deep State in the United States," end quotes, in Wikipedia. On another topic altogether, I'd like to thank our managers, employees, for their diligent performance of their duties as assigned by the trustees. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Barris. All right. Mr. Treasurer, do you have anything? Mr. Attorney?
Nothing this evening.
All right. Family, let's go to reports.
The Fredonia Police Department report for the month of August 2019. Incidents reported 640. Fredonia Central School calls for service 3. Accidents 15. Arrests reported 58. Vehicle and traffic 30. On to the Fire Department report for the month of August. Total fire 2. Rescue and EMS 123. Hazardous conditions, no fire 1. Service calls 6. Good intent calls 16. False alarm and false calls 16, for a grand total of 164. And the Fredonia Justice Court report for the month of August. Vehicle and traffic cases closed 36. Criminal cases 43. Village ordinances 8. Civil cases 6. ABC laws 2. New York State tax laws 1, for a total cases 96. Total fines and surcharges $4,880. Parking tickets $675, for a total of $5,555. And that concludes the reports.
Thank you very much. Let's go to resolutions.
Okay. Regarding local law number 4-2019, Village of Fredonia, a local law to amend the village code to remove all references to village administrator. Whereas the resolution purporting to create the position of, quotes, village administrator, end quotes, was rescinded on July 29th, 2018, and whereas the creation of the position of village administrator would have required a public referendum instead of a mere resolution if that position was to hold any power, and whereas the purported authority to combine the positions of clerk and treasurer into clerk-treasurer or village administrator did not even exist in the code until local law number 7 of 2016. And whereas no public referendum regarding the position was ever offered to the people of the village, and whereas the term village administrator was subsequently added to several areas of the village code, and whereas the village desires to return its code to its pre-2016 state. Therefore, be it resolved, the village code is hereby amended to remove all references to the village administrator as follows. I do not intend to read the next 6 pages. It includes 8 deletions from the code and 7 additions.
Okay, do I have a second?
I second the resolution.
Trustee Christina?
Yes.
Trustee Linden?
Aye.
Trustee Essek?
No.
Trustee Briggs?
No.
Trustee Barris?
Aye.
Motion's carried.
Going forward. Local law number 3.
Local law number 3. Do I need to read that up part up there? The whole thing. Okay, local law number 3-2019, Village of Fredonia, a local law to amend Chapter 179 of the Fredonia Village Code entitled Housing Standards. Be it enacted by the Board of Trustees of the Village of Fredonia, New York as follows. It is the intent of this local law to amend Chapter 179 of the Fredonia Village Code. Chapter 179 of the Village of Fredonia Code is hereby amended as follows. I don't need to read all of that, right?
Do I have a second?
Does she read the end of this?
Where is it? I gotta find it. This local law shall take effect immediately upon filing with the Secretary of State.
I second the resolution.
Trustee Christina?
Yes.
Trustee Linden?
Aye.
Trustee Essek?
Yes.
Trustee Briggs?
Yes.
Trustee Barris?
Aye.
Okay, let's go to the next one.
Whereas the Village of Fredonia, this village, has historically and intends to continue to exercise the authority conferred to it by law, including without limitation, General Municipal Law 122-B, authorizing the village to provide for emergency medical services, advanced life support, ALS, first responder services, and general ambulance services, hereinafter collectively referred to as ambulance services, within the boundaries of the village, and further to formulate such rules and regulations as the village deems necessary relating to the provisions of the ambulance services. And whereas the village board of the Village of Fredonia establishes a village emergency medical services department, EMS department, within the village. And whereas the village board by resolution may amend it in its discretion, from time to time, the rate for such services, and it be further resolved, the village board directs that such revenue recovery by the EMS department utilize the rate of services as attached to this resolution as Scheduled A, effective October 1st, 2019, which the village board may amend in its discretion from time to time.
Second the resolution?
Trustee Christina?
Yes.
Trustee Linden?
Aye.
Trustee Essek?
Yes.
Trustee Briggs?
Yes.
Trustee Barris?
Aye.
Whereas the village requires technical assistance for its 9/13/19 public improvement serial bond issue for $2,949,280. Whereas Municipal Solutions Incorporated is offering to provide professional services to assist the village with this project at a cost not to exceed $10,000. Therefore, be it resolved, the mayor is hereby authorized to direct to enter into an agreement with Municipal Solutions Incorporated.
I'll second that.
Trustee Christina?
Yes.
Trustee Linden?
Aye.
Trustee Essek?
Yes.
Trustee Britt?
Yes.
Trustee Barnes?
Aye.
Whereas the Village of Fredonia is in the process of completing emergency improvements to various water lines in the village at an estimated final cost of $1,950,078. And whereas the New York State Water Infrastructure Improvement Act, WIIA, program has authorized the New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation, that's NYSEFC, to provide $350 million in grants to eligible municipal clean water and sewer and municipal drinking water projects on a competitive basis in 2019. And whereas, if awarded, the grant will fund 60% of eligible project costs, with the balance to be funded by the Drinking Water State Revolving Fund, the DWSRF, and whereas Municipal Solutions Incorporated has been authorized to prepare a competitive 2019 drinking water WIIA grant for the emergency water improvement project, which is due to NYSEFC by September 13th, 2019. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the mayor is authorized to sign the WIIA grant application and supporting documents, and if awarded, to execute a grant agreement with the New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation and any and all other contracts, documents, and instruments necessary to bring about the project and to fulfill the Village of Fredonia's obligation under the WIIA grant agreement.
I second that.
Trustee Linden? Trustee Christina?
Yes.
Trustee Linden?
Aye.
Trustee Essek?
Yes.
Trustee Britt?
Yes.
Trustee Barnes?
Aye.
Be it resolved that the proposal from Lakeland's Concrete Products, Lima, New York, dated 5/31/19 for the precast box culverts for Porter Avenue emergency wall repair in the amount of $13,578 is hereby approved, and payment is to be made from the CHIPS Capital Fund. Over to you, Doug.
I second that motion.
Trustee Christina?
Yes.
Trustee Linden?
Aye.
Trustee Essek?
Yes.
Trustee Britt?
Yeah, Jim, I have one question. Could you provide us with the remaining balance of our CHIPS fund for the next meeting, what we have?
Well,
Must ask.
I will as soon as the numbers come, all the numbers are in.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I vote yes.
And Dr. Barnes? Aye. Trustee Barnes, I should say. Okay.
I move that we adjourn.
Do I have a second? Trustee Christina?
Yes.
Trustee Linden?
Aye.
Trustee Essek?
Yes.
Trustee Barnes? Britt?
Yes.
Trustee Barnes?